Paul Casey, the Kenpo Karate Hall of Fame educational video series, where we talk about Kenpo principles, concepts, the law of the fist, and we encompass many, many different systems and styles and disciplines in our discussions. The Kenpo Karate Hall of Fame has over a dozen different style system disciplines, and we have over close to 100 members that have been inducted. I'm very, very honored today to be talking to one of our newest inductees for the 2022 Kenpo Karate Hall of Fame award ceremony, which will take place in Las Vegas, Nevada. This gentleman resides down in Texas, the great state of Texas, and all the eyes are upon you down there. So please welcome our friend and soon our newest inductee. Would you please give a warm welcome to Professor Nick Chamberlain? Can I call you Nick, sir?
Yes, please do.
Thank you so much.
It's okay if I call you Paul?
Absolutely. Nick, welcome to the show. I hope you enjoy. We're going to ask you some simple questions. You can give us some insight in your martial arts training. When did you start in the martial arts?
Much like yourself, I started in the late 80s, late 70s rather, in just outside of Boston, and grew up in the martial arts there, training in an offshoot of Kaji Kenpo, which was Karazempo Goshin Jitsu. It's gone by various names in New England, but it came through Grandmaster George Passari, and then to Nick Serio, and then from Serio to Fred Villari, and from there it just went haywire all over the place. I ended up my original training with one of the offshoots of Villari, and then after a couple of years managed to find my way back to Professor Nick Serio in Warwick, Rhode Island, and that's where I did the majority of my training. That's what's been the big influence for me going forwards from that point.
You remember your first day in school, in a martial arts school?
I don't. I'm not good at remembering something unless it's got a big emotional bang to it. So I remember getting my nose broken at a belt test, and I remember being told by my instructor, you know, you should keep your hands closed when you're sparring. I was like, oh, I'm a blue belt, I don't need to do that. But as you can see, that didn't work out too well either. So I keep my hands closed and I keep them up now, and that hopefully that'll take care of my fingers and my nose a little bit better. But not the first day, no. Serio was probably my 8th or 9th Kenpo instructor. I had to do a little bit of a search to find him. That's before the internet. That's before you could find people pretty easily. I did an short internship with Rocky DeRico, and from Rocky DeRico, who was one of Professor's senior students, went to Warwick and trained with Serio.
What was the motivation for taking martial arts?
I grew up in England. I had a couple of cool magazines with Bruce Lee in them. And then when I came over to America, my high school bus drove by a Kenpo school every day. It just kind of wore me down. And I've always enjoyed individual sports, something that you can get better at by practicing on your own. So I've always enjoyed archery and table tennis and golf, that sort of thing. And when I got into my first few karate classes, it was something that I could get better at by putting some personal effort into it. So I spent pretty much every free moment that I had, including the time I should have probably been spending doing my homework in high school, doing the martial arts instead.
Did you compete in many tournaments, or was it just simply training inside the school?
This was New England Kenpo in the 70s and early 80s, and there were not a lot of tournaments, and typically the instructors didn't want you going anywhere, didn't want you competing anywhere, didn't want you to train at anyone else's school. They were afraid that you were going to find out who they trained with and go and learn and study with them, because at that point in New England, they were probably 2 blocks down the road running their own school. So I started off the only tournament opportunities were a once or twice a year with the schools that we were associated with at the time. And I actually opened up my first school my senior year in high school in 1981. And at that point, I got pretty busy. So I spent all my time in,
Is that when you tested for black or a belt?
No,
or
I got my black belt in the late 70s, around 79, and then opened up in 81 with a second-degree black belt.
What is the greatest reward you've had from being a teacher or instructor in the martial arts?
The people that I've met across different social cuts and stratas, met some wonderful people all over the world. It gives you an opportunity to travel anywhere and find somewhere to go and visit. I've been fortunate to travel many different places around the world and visit different dojos and instructors. You automatically have a family and friends when you go there. So that's been probably the best part of the martial arts for me.
Well, in your teaching, the reward that you would receive building your relationship with students, any of those in students stand out as something that has really touched your heart and reinforced your desire to instruct others?
Well, one of my original students, Professor George Tebow, he ran Drake at Kenpo Karate just outside of Boston. He started with me in the early 80s, and he had never finished college and had trouble with jobs, and came to me and said, look, getting my black belt with you was the first thing in life that I'd ever actually finished and completed. And he said the confidence that instilled in me enabled me to go on and finish other parts of my life. And he ended up opening up his own school in Drake in Massachusetts, and taught there for 30 years, and just retired this January from teaching, and had a very successful career and made a lot of black belts and did a really good job.
You've said you've had numerous instructors actually helping you in your martial arts journey. Any particular one stands out?
Professor Serio, again, was probably the guiding influence in my martial arts training, for a couple of reasons. One, he worked hard at his own skills in becoming better. He didn't sit back on his laurels and say, yeah, I've done that, now I don't have to work out anymore. He continued to train and work out and teach his entire life. And he went and sought out the best instructors that he could. So if he met someone on the tournament circuit that he thought was great, then he would go and train with them. So he went and trained with Tadashi Yamashita and Fumio Demura, and went to Hawaii and trained with Professor Chow. And a lot of people don't do that. They see people's photos on the wall and say, yeah, it's a great martial artist, but they don't actually get on a plane or a boat and go and visit them and work out and train with them. So he made a very big difference in my career.
In his teachings, did he say, this is something I picked up from this other instructor or from this other system, but I think it's relevant to what we're talking about?
He was a developer, not just a coach and teacher. So he took the martial arts that he learned from the different instructors and sort of recreated Kaji Kenpo in New England. So he took the Kenpo that he had from George Basari, and he added to that the weapon sets from Fumio Demura and Tadashi Yamashita, and added to that close jujitsu from James Benko, and sort of pull back together some of the pieces that made up Kaji Kenpo. So he was a big bringer together of the best things that he could find.
Did you ever meet Adriano Imperato?
I did.
What were your impressions of him?
he was in a wheelchair, and I never personally trained with him. I met him at a workshop down in Florida with Bruce Corrigan and Rich Facina out of New York. He had brought in several other big Kenpo names. He brought in Eric Lee and Rick Kinji and a good friend of mine, Ai Alcoa, and his sister. And Emperado had just had all the other guys teach. He enjoyed people teaching, and if there was a high-ranking master there, he would get them out and teach. And I taught at his birthday celebration for a couple of years out in Las Vegas. He didn't spend a lot of time with me. I didn't train directly with him or under him, but I did train with Sonny Gass and Walter Godine, who were two of his black belts. And in his later life, he seemed to be interested in pulling those that he may have had differences with them in the past, but he seemed to be very keen on bringing everyone back together again and trying to make all the pieces fit back together that had broken apart.
It sounds to me that you had a pretty diversified instructional background with all these different individuals and their walks in life. So it would really make your vision or your education much broader than most.
Well, I think a lot of people have different ways of climbing up the mountain. One of the nice things about Boston was there was a Chinatown right there, and it seemed like a lot of black belts ended up gravitating towards Chinatown for a different viewpoint. And I was able to train there for 10 years with one of the instructors. I thought that was great. I took my students down there for Chinese New Year's and August Moon and General Kwan's birthday and different celebrations, and we would protect the dragon, and during the lion dances we'd have all the students down there. It was a great martial arts experience. It was a great cultural experience, and really glad that I was able to be a part of that.
What countries have you visited because of the martial arts?
When I first came down to Dallas, Texas, which is where I am now, I looked for more training in Kenpo and Kaji Kembo and couldn't find exactly what I was looking for. So I thought maybe one of the best ways to do it would be to work on the pieces of Kaji Kembo. And I met Vince Tamura, who's one of the greatest judo competitors and teachers that the United States has had, and worked out in his school for many, many years. And then traveled with a group of 10 of his students and instructors and stayed at the Kodokan in Tokyo and trained there for a couple of weeks. So it's, again, those relationships and those friendships that allowed me to travel and train and meet a lot of really interesting and fun people.
Did you ever meet Ed Parker?
I did. When he first came to New England in the late 80s, I guess, he was coming into town to meet with Tony Cogliandro and that group of Kenpo guys. And this was the first time that he'd come to Boston that we knew of, and he was holding a big workshop and seminar. He had everyone line up across the front of the gymnasium floor, and he looked across the front line, and I was standing there, and he saw Nick Serio's patch on my jacket. So he grabbed me out, and he's like, "Oh, Serio, good." So I guess he figured I wouldn't break, and he used me for his uke for a good portion of the workshop. So I've been looking for those photos ever since.
I bet you have, but
yeah.
You had a personal hands-on with Mr. Parker.
So that was
what did you learn I'll ask you three things about that. What did you learn from him? What were your impressions of him? And was there something that stayed with you that you could use as your own?
Well, that was a long time ago. Um, I guess the immediate thing was that he pulled me out because of the people that I knew. He didn't know me from anyone, but he had a lot of respect for Nick Serio. Serio, I think, was the highest rank that Parker ever promoted. I think he promoted him to ninth degree black belt in
That's correct. That's correct.
in Kenpo. And so his friendship with Serio is the reason I got to work out with him at all that day. And the fact that he was just larger than life and able to hold everyone in, with his charisma, just hold their attention. I don't think it mattered what he was teaching. Just the way that he was teaching it and his personal presence is what stuck with me. I don't remember what he was doing at the time or what technique he was teaching, but just the fact that he was kind enough to make me a part of what was going on, and just enjoyed being there.
And that's the beauty of when you're with somebody that's so confident in themselves. I've heard many things from the Hall of Fame members that know you and know of you. And one particular, you have a relationship with Ted Sumner, right?
I do.
Yes. Can you explain that kind of relationship? How's that work out with you guys?
Well, Al Tracy, Grandmaster Al Tracy, had started the Gathering of Eagles in '99, and Professor Serio was supposed to teach there, and he passed a few months before that, and I was invited to go and teach the Nick Serio's Kenpo portion at the first Gathering of Eagles. So that's when I met Master Tracy for the first time. And then I went back. He held it every 2 years. I went back every 2 years and was fortunate to be able to teach at each of those. And through that, I met everybody, it seemed like, that was involved in Kenpo. All the different systems were a part of that. His goal, much like yours, had been to bring together all the different Kenpo families under one roof. And I think he was successful in that because he was, or seemed to be, less political and more welcoming for everyone to be a part of the event. So he ran that every 2 years until 2015, and then I ran it down here in Dallas in 2017. And to do that for him and the Tracy Kenpo group was obviously a great opportunity and an honor, but it was a beating, the amount of work to do, much as yourself. You have to call everyone, you have to talk to everyone. I spent hours and hours and hours on the phone every single night, talking to everyone I could get a phone number or a text or an email for, to try and involve them in that. And I didn't have any of Master Tracy's connections to do that. So I lent heavily on his senior black belts, which was primarily Ted Sumner. So Ted Sumner helped me put all of that together. He put me in contact with a lot of people, the connections, the links, everything to help make that successful. And we were able to bring hundreds of people into Dallas and have a great event.
Congratulations. I can appreciate what you're saying.
Oh, it's so much work.
It really is. But the reward is when you see the faces and the smiles and the people come up and say thank you. I think that's probably the three hardest things that I've experienced are people have a problem saying thank you, congratulations, and I'm sorry. It seems they have that issue. Those are the three sayings for some reason. So when you go to a seminar like this, what do they ask you to teach? What do you draw from for that experience so that you can leave those participants with some kind of glimpse of inspiration?
Well, what I get when I train from the other instructors is I want to, or whether I want to or not, I look for an instructor that's going to leave me inspired, motivated, wanting to go back and train and work. Usually it's some simple drill or a technique or two that they covered in their workshop, or sometimes it's just watching the person move. A good example of that would be Professor George Lim. He's a Kenpo, Hawaiian Kenpo instructor in Arizona. And I watched him for years. And I was like, I like the way that guy moves. And he just did such a great job. And then during his workshops, he would talk to people about why they're training and friendships and honor and loyalty, and what his instructors had meant to him and what he tries to do with his students. And I like the way that was put together. So
How do you overcome, how do you deal with adversity? Like a student says, gee whiz, I just can't get that. How do you to work through that problem for him or her?
Well, usually if they can't get something, it's because I can't figure out how to teach it. And that's why I try and get my black belts teaching. It's usually not because the student's thick in the head. It's because me as an instructor can't figure out how to put a handle on it for them to hold on to. So by teaching different people and different groups, you get to learn how to present material, what to look for, try and learn about them and what they can do and what they're used to, and then present the material in such a way that they can grasp it and get a grip on it.
You've had a long history of the martial arts. It's going to continue for as long as we're here. I'm going to guess that's our goal. You know, we sadly see so many things happening because, we have certain instructors that don't live long. But in the time that you've been in the martial arts and your long journey with so many of these well-known, well-respected martial arts instructors, what is your vision for your martial arts journey and how you will help others?
I just try and I can't do it all myself. So what I try and do is inspire my instructors to do a great job and other people to teach and do a great job. I've had adults come to me and say, you asked me why I'm doing the karate. I said, I remember doing some karate when I was a kid. I really don't remember what I did, but I really enjoyed it. And I think I'd like to come back and do some more martial arts now. So if I can just get that across, we teach a lot of kids, obviously, a lot of schools do that these days. If I can just get those kids to enjoy it, get something out of it, and then want to continue in some fashion when they're adults, that would be one of my goals. And then to try and pass on some of the history and traditions that I've been exposed to, and the martial arts skills that have been passed down.
Have any final thoughts or comments you would like to share with the Kenpo Karate audience?
Keep training. I know that sounds trite, but keep training and working out. Don't sit back and rest on your laurels. I know you were discussing with me earlier, Frank Trejo, and he just wanted to continue teaching and wanted to continue working. And I think that you need to do that. You need to continue on your own journey and your own training, as well as bringing other people along. I think that's where some of the magic of the martial arts is. You watch some of the old Japanese guys, the old Chinese guys, they're still training. They're still doing the martial arts, not just teaching. I think that's a big part. You got to keep doing it yourself.
Mike always had a statement from the day when I met him. He says, you got to show up. The hardest thing you can do is to walk through that door. And if you can't do that, then you have no business being here. And that was the first lesson he taught me. Respect the school, respect the mat, and respect that patch. Show up. And he was right. I would like to say congratulations, Professor Nick Chamberlain. And I thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on the show today. I'm looking forward to seeing you in Las Vegas, and we're going to induct you into 2022 Kenpo Karate Hall of Fame. And it's truly an honor to spend this day with you. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Well, Paul, thank you very much for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. And really congratulations on what you're doing and all the effort that you're putting behind it. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of it.
Salute to you, sir. On behalf of the Kenpo Karate Hall of Fame, we wish you the very best. Thank you so much. And you all have a great night. Take care.
Thank you.